Can I have your attention? Hello, hello. All right, well, thank you. Boy, did Mark and Mark do a pretty good job? They're very entertaining. I think they should go into the auction business. All right, we have 2 more speakers. Roger will close the show shortly. Our next speaker is someone I've known for almost his entire illustrious career. Ken Murphy, current CEO of Mattress Firm. He started in 1998 as a retail sales associate, and not long after that, his boss, Steve Stagner, who I obviously knew, called me up and said, "Why don't you come down? We've got a big sales meeting." "Oh, this is great. I'm going to Atlanta, fly in there, got a suit on, dress. I mean, it's 150 degrees outside. It's in the summertime. I've got a suit on, tie. I head down there. I'm expecting some fancy, elaborate dog and pony show. I'm really excited. When I get there, Steve took me to the back of the warehouse. Now, being Italian, I figured I might be meeting some people. Gave me a couple pairs of cement shoes, and that was the end of the night. But actually, it turned out it was a fun evening. You remember that, Steve? And I remember clearly that one of the speakers that night, and I didn't know Ken at that point, had a gift of prose. I'm going to call him a kind of a linguistic Leonardo, kind of a wonder with words. Ken used words, frankly, to this day I still don't understand, even after I looked them up. But he kept us spellbound that night, and actually ever since. Ken has quickly moved up at Mattress Firm, as you can see, all the different jobs he's had. He first worked with Steve and his crew, and then when he came with the corporate folks in Houston with me, Ken took over as director of training and recruiting, and then he got that all done, and then they took off, and sales took off, and the training, it was unbelievable. So give him something else to do. He started looking around, giving some other jobs. He's done regional vice president of sales. I'm having to look at the list, Ken. It's a few too many jobs. National vice president of sales, chief operating officer, and then president. And along the way, he had a little time he squeezed in. He got an MBA from Wharton. So as he learned more and more, he began to share that knowledge with others so that when he took the next job, he had somebody to do his job. How thoughtful. Actually, it's called succession. That's how you're supposed to run things, and that's what Ken did. And the company's in better shape because of it. So today, Ken is CEO of the largest specialty retailer in the country. We all know that. I can't find a word big enough or fancy enough to describe my admiration for this guy, but you're going to hear a lot from him. Ken Murphy, please come to the stage.
Well, good evening, everyone. Gary, thank you very much for those incredibly kind words. I realize that tonight has been, it's been a long night, but it's been an amazing night. I am, ironically enough, given Gary's preamble, I'm actually at a bit of a loss for words, given all that I have seen and experienced tonight. And I want to, guess, begin, and I won't be up here long. I know I'm standing between Gary and him following his Red Sox on to victory tonight, so I want to be sensitive to that. But I do want to thank Gary. I want to thank also, of course, Roger and Liz and the entire Seena Magowitz team for putting on another amazing event. I'd also like to thank all of the volunteers who have given the gift of time and service to help make this an amazing event. Thank you all so much. I want to thank all of you, candidly, for taking time off, time away from your busy schedule right before Labor Day to be here, to be gathered together, to be in the presence of our survivors. What incredible stories, really and truly unbelievable. and Dr. Von Hoff. Talk about someone who has words that people don't understand, but wow, what an unbelievable opportunity once again to be in your presence. Thank you so much for all that you have done. On a personal level, I do want to thank you also. I have 3 young daughters, and I have tried to talk to them about the dangers of boys and the fact that they have cooties. And I heard tonight, literally cooties, terror cooties, I think are a bad thing. I'm taking that back to Houston, Texas. So thank you for empowering me with that medical knowledge. As Gary alluded, I first joined this business about 20 years ago in 1998, and I don't remember exactly when or where or who it was, but I do remember early on in my career having someone who had been in the industry for a while pull me aside and talk to me. I think the idea was to give a little advice, a little perspective, a little counsel on this crazy business that I have joined. And I remember the conversation going something to the effect of, "Son, welcome to the bedding business. We may not be curing cancer, but we actually do some pretty good things, and this is one heck of an interesting business." And the fact that 20 years later, I can certainly attest to the reality that this is indeed an interesting business. And as I sit here tonight, once again being reminded of the progress being made, I enjoy thinking about the reality that part of his counsel was wrong. And that is that, in fact, we actually are one day going to have an opportunity to cure cancer. What we've been privy to tonight, in the video that we saw, hearing the stories that we heard, and hearing Dr. Von Hoff's latest update, is, to my way of thinking, proof point after proof point that we are emphatically, empirically, and unquestionably making progress in the great fight against this great enemy. And that is astoundingly positive. It also occurs to me that this would not be possible, and this goes without saying, I know, but it would not be possible without the commitment and the resolve of everyone at TGen, of Dr. Von Hoff, and candidly of all of you in this room. And I don't say that lightly. When you go home tomorrow, you go home with the opportunity to take a couple of different souvenirs. Number one, you go home with the knowledge that, in fact, we are making progress. And that should come with a sense of pride, because as you heard directly from Dr. Von Hoff, it doesn't happen without funding. And you all of us, are having an opportunity to be a part of that story. And that is incredibly exciting. It's something that we should all be thankful for and be proudful of. But the other thing that we must take home, and I know you heard this message, but it bears reiterating once again as we close out tonight, is the reality that although the progress has been made and although much great success has already been accomplished, we are just starting. And we have an opportunity as an industry to leave a legacy, to make a footnote on our careers that would be greater than anything ever conceived, to know that all of us who would otherwise be conspiring to compete with each other have the opportunity to harness that competitive fire against one common enemy that, quite frankly, deserves all the hell and fury we can bring to bear. And that is the reality of putting this terrible disease to end. And we have the ability to do that. And it makes me humbled and honored to be here, to be with all of you in the industry, to see the progress that is being made. And I was struck by Dr. Von Hoff's messaging that the way that we do this comes from funding, to be sure, but it also comes from awareness, and it comes from activation. And so as we go home, I want to, on the one hand, thank you for the great work that has been done. And certainly there is great work that has been done and that has been enabled. And we heard from Randy and his amazing story of what's happening in his family. We're going to have an opportunity tonight, hopefully, to spend a little bit of time with the rest of the folks here who have been affected by this horrible disease. But I want to challenge us to make it a priority for our lives and to make it a priority in the lives of our organizations back home. All of us have had the opportunity to play a part, and granted, it's a very small part, particularly against the lens of Dr. Von Hoff, but it's a part nonetheless. That's worth celebrating tonight. It's worth thinking about tomorrow out on the golf course. Thank you so much for allowing the progress to be made. Thank you for being a part of this. And I'd like to call back to the stage Mr. Roger Magowitz to officially bring us home. Thank you, Roger.